Welcome to Green Carpet Interviews. Let's get into the show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Green Carpet Interviews, the show where we talk about all the great things in life, all of the good stuff, like sustainability, living better, eating vegan. These are all the great things. And we're glad that you're here and that you are joining us on another adventure. My name is Deji Bankole, and I'm
And
one of
I'm
your
a
hosts.
Kindle.
Oh, okay.
It's here.
Yeah, just jumping right in.
I'm jumping right in.
Today we have a nice guest on. And nice guest meaning he's got some nice shoes. We'll get to that in a second. See what I did there? You know what I did, but they don't know yet. Anyways,
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty clever, actually.
So Gary
Yes.
Charbonneau is our guest for today, and he's kind of a cool guy. He is the owner of Nice Shoes, which is a vegan apparel company, and he's also a documentary filmmaker. In 2016, Gary had filmed the documentary Vancouver Aquarium Uncovered, the truth about cetacean captivity. I don't know if that's the right word, but we're gonna go with that for now, and then he'll explain. He'll school the noob, me, as to what if I said that right or not. Also, the aquarium sued, but lost. They tried to sue him and then lost, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of cool, actually. His second film, The Media Illusion, discusses the scientific failures of animal testing for human disease, which is, that's pretty crazy. And after its release, Gary purchased Nice Shoes, the company that he acquired earlier, that I just told you about, because they saw the potential of the growing vegan market and company that aligned with his values. So that's cool. Very, very awesome.
Totally cool.
Okay, so
I can't wait to get his shoes, actually.
Yeah, I actually need some new shoes.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's bring in Gary.
Yes.
Gary into the conversation. And there he is.
Oh,
There he is. There's Gary.
Hi, Gary. How are you, man?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me, gentlemen.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. So we got a lot of questions for you.
Okay.
But first, let
Yes.
the people know, the people who don't know who you are, let the people know who you are,
Okay. My name's Gary Charbonneau. I'm from a small northern mining town in Ontario, Canada. It's called Timmins, Ontario. I grew up hunting and fishing, realized at a very young age that animals had emotions and feelings, something that I wasn't really taught. Growing up, it's not that we had a disrespect for animals. It was more that we didn't have respect for them. And there was like growing up, there were a lot of contests for the biggest fish, the biggest this, the biggest that. And what does that tell you? That animals are just a contest.
Yeah.
And so this is how you grow up. And it was really sad, and it's still going on today. But then I moved from Ontario to British Columbia, dated this woman who was vegetarian, because I always thought that you shoot the animal, you kill it quickly, and that's it.
Yeah.
And she explained to me that's not it. That's in a small little town. Me all about factory farming, so I didn't want to have anything to do with that. I didn't want to hurt animals at all if I didn't have to. And then shortly after that, I heard that the dairy industry was just as bad. And so I stopped dairy. I started to feel better right away, getting off of dairy. And I've been vegan for 26 years, I think now.
Wow.
And shot a couple documentaries to help animals, to help educate people about, especially my first one was Cetaceans in Captivity. They're too big, they're too intelligent to be there. I got sued for that, but luckily I won.
Yeah.
And then I came out with another film called The Medical Illusion to talk about why the scientific failures of animal testing to understand human disease. And recently I just bought a vegan company called Nice Shoes, and here we are.
Yeah. That's awesome. There's a lot of definitely a lot of good stuff there. Being a filmmaker myself, it's always cool to see how somebody can take. I mean, the things I like to do are more narrative based, but like taking, the things that we're passionate about, that we care about, and then actually being able to put them into film. That's amazing. That's really cool. Because uh, one of the one of the people that we talked to before who was doing like statistics about like the number of people who go from go on to be vegan, like the highest amount do it from what after they watch the documentary.
Interesting.
So it's just like it's kind of crazy to think that like it's all about media. That's like what this world is all about. They all they care about is so. Anyways, it's cool to
We'll talk about media in a second.
yeah.
Yeah.
So so cetacean, that word I got caught up in in the intro here, but cetacean, that's how you say it. Okay, so that's great. I saw that documentary and it was fascinating how when companies are they're big and they're like they're privately owned, and they give you sort of the illusion that they're helping, but a lot of times these businesses make a lot of money, and that's like one of their biggest driving things. So like what about that documentary, like what spoke to you the most, and why did you even like bother to make it?
So what happened was a friend of mine approached me, and she said that there was a meeting at the Vancouver Park Board. Here in Vancouver, British Columbia, where the Vancouver Aquarium sits, is in a big park called Stanley Park, and that's actually governed by the Vancouver Board City Council.
Mm.
And but we learned that it was actually the aquarium that controlled the council. That's why they were able to get away with everything. But you hit the nail on the head when you talk about profits. That's the only reason why, and I want to clarify cetaceans in case people don't know what it is. It's whales, dolphins, and porpoises.
Yeah.
And so my friend had told me that there's going to be a meeting, and she thought that there was some very suspicious wording,
Mm.
phrases, statements coming from the aquarium, and she thought I should look into it. So I went to the meeting. I knew after that meeting that the Vancouver Aquarium was being completely dishonest.
Mm.
Nothing made sense. The facts weren't there. The rescues weren't there. They were just really, they've had it so easy to get away with everything. And the reason why is because there was so much money. This was a major tourist attraction for Vancouver.
Yeah.
And the reason why those animals were still there, even though all the facts were there that they were suffering and that this is just for profit,
Mhm.
they were supported by everyone. And this is what I meant by media. It was lucky for me that the Vancouver Aquarium sued me because I couldn't get into media. I
Yeah.
couldn't get anywhere into Vancouver because the Vancouver Aquarium spent so much money on advertising, nobody wanted to bite the hand that feeds. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what they told me. That's what they used the words. They
Mm.
weren't even shy. And so nobody wanted to talk to me. And the ones that did were afraid to be sued by them because they were very litigious.
Mm.
And I couldn't believe that we have no news across Canada. They're literally owned and
Yeah.
controlled by corporations.
Yeah.
And, but once they sued me, nobody could hide that story. So they did themselves a huge disservice because then my film blew up. Everybody saw it because of the whole David Goliath thing. And another issue that we need to talk about at some point is that when I went to court, I'm finding myself and everybody else, almost everyone who's going to court with animal issues,
Mhm.
running into the same thing. We have judges that have grown up understanding that animals are basically furniture, that they're part of an economy, that you wear them, that you eat them. They're
Mhm.
not sentient beings. So when you go into a courtroom trying to explain to them that cetaceans in captivity is horrific, and here's the facts, they look at you and they think that you're just a terrorist because
Yeah.
they want to believe the aquarium. You know, and that's what the aquarium came out and said. They didn't have facts. As a matter of fact, they came out with an affidavit that said 10 of the photos I used were theirs. And even if they were theirs, I was still allowed to use them under the law.
Mhm.
But we proved that 7 of them were not even theirs. That their affidavit was littered with errors and it had no value. And they still won in that
Mm.
first court. that injunction. But I won the appeal 7 months later when 3 judges agreed that that judge should never have ruled in their favor. But it was scary to see how this judge moved around the law, our constitution, to make the Vancouver Aquarium win when they shouldn't have at all.
Yeah.
And it wasn't her fault. She didn't even realize she was being biased. And I looked at other lawsuits involving animals, and you're seeing the same thing. Indoctrinated judges that simply don't understand that times have changed. And so we're not getting the rulings. So it's some are, some aren't, but generally we're not. So there's a whole other aspect there of education in the justice system, because there's a huge influx now of animal cases all across North America, all across the world. And these judges, and I don't even know who really is above the judges to start saying, whenever these animal cases come in front of judges, they need to be re-educated. And we need to understand that they do have biases, even though they don't want them. So that's another big problem. So we've got media problems, we've got law problems, and then just a lack of education for the general public. Once people found out what was really happening at the aquarium, people turned on the aquarium right away. They just don't know. So that's kind of, so I made the documentary, put it out there, and it all came because a friend of mine said, we think that there's issues here. And there was. Oh, and as you saw, which was one of my favorite parts, is when they were approved, accredited by CAZA, which CAZA is, and in the United States, it's AZA, the accreditation for zoos and aquariums.
Oh, got it.
It's Canadian accreditation for zoos and aquariums. I was shocked to find out that the Vancouver Aquarium had been accredited by anyone. So I thought, who is CAZA? Are they not doing their homework? Because this should be accredited. The president of CAZA was the vice president of the Vancouver Aquarium. It's a joke. Yeah. So this is where we're at. Yes.
Wow.
That's it's pretty intense. And I think that's, I mean, you know, when you're, you know, hate to say it, but like, it feels like when you've got the power, you just sort of surround yourself with the other friends, and you sort of try to keep holding on to that for, you know, no matter what the cost is, you know, unfortunately. So
you're absolutely correct, because it didn't just stop with media. We have Tourism Vancouver, which is a big company that obviously looks after tourists and things like that. And they put out flyers and all of this, right? Through an FOI, which is a Freedom of Information, I found an email from Tourism Vancouver to the park board that said, there's a new film out, the Vancouver Aquarium Uncovered. We've been getting concerns. They even included one, but they scratched out the name and everything. And they redacted that information. And it basically said, you know, I have concerns. I saw this film. Are these animals actually happy, healthy? Are you doing your research before you support this? That was the email from the person that they had included in their email. And they said, this is the kind of emails we're getting. So we're just letting you know ahead of time that the news may come up to you. So we're giving you a warning. And now we're going to call the Vancouver Aquarium for talking points. They had zero concern.
Of course.
We have one of the most prestigious universities in Canada, is the University of British Columbia. They had 2 university professors working at the aquarium, doing studies and everything. And in return, they were making statements that the aquarium wanted them to make. The problem is they were false. So when I contacted UBC and said, you have a code of ethics, and if professors are going to make these statements, they have to be able to prove it. So I would like the proof.
Wow.
They said, we're not interested. They said this case was closed. They weren't acting as UBC professors. So I sent them a video saying, yes, they were. Here's a video, a recording at the Vancouver Park Board meeting, where he introduces himself as a UBC professor and then continues. So I said, so here's your evidence. What's the next step? They sent over, they said, case is closed. We're not interested. So even UBC is allowing UBC professors to lie, to be dishonest. The media doesn't care. Tourism Vancouver doesn't care. So you can start seeing why zoos and aquariums exist. They are protected by all those people that make money. That's what it is. It's unbelievably sad. And the public just doesn't know.
You know, since you won your appeal,
I wonder, has there been any changes in the regulations right now to at least address the issues and begin to move in the direction of making sure animals are not mistreated this way?
There's a big push now for animals across Canada. And like I said, we're starting to see the problems with government and the justice system, that they're so outdated. But a lot of people are starting to now look at this, to the point that when I was being sued, that there was already a bill on the table from a senator. It's Bill S-203, which was to end cetacean captivity. They were having such a hard time passing it because a couple senators, in our government, were purposely prolonging it and trying to remove the bill, because they were friends with one of the zoos and aquarium places, Marine
That's
Land.
crazy.
Yeah, and so this whole thing kept getting delayed and delayed, because we have these unprofessional senators that believe they can do whatever they want to do, which included breaking rules. But they finally got it passed, and I think they passed the Terrorism Act faster than the Cetacean Act. That's how bad it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is
Something like that. Anyways, it was kind of crazy.
Wow.
But they finally passed it. So now they said we can't have cetaceans in captivity anymore. But what they've done is they've grandfathered the ones that are there. And I have a huge problem with this, because they're bringing forward Bill S-203 to say we have to stop this. Why? Because this is cruel. Well, then if we know that it's cruel, why are we not helping the ones that are there now?
That's right.
Because of profits. Because, okay, we'll bring this is how they do it. We'll bring in this bill, but we'll let you keep these animals there and keep profiting, as long as you don't give us too much of a hard time. And I'm saying, not only should we be closing them down, we should be charging them to move these animals to proper sanctuaries, but instead we're letting them keep these animals grandfathered in, and I'll be working on that in the next couple of years.
Now, isn't there a way to also let them know? Because the only reason why it is clear that there's suffering going on for the cetaceans is because of the ones that are there now. It's not because of the ones in the future. So the data came from the ones now. They should be released.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it doesn't make any sense.
And they should pay for it, because and the reason why I say they should pay for it is because it's not as if they had these animals, whether it's zoos or aquariums, and they had these animals there, and they truly believed that these animals were doing well, and they were truly being honest when they said we've rescued them, or they're endangered, or whatever it is. They were all lying. They were not healthy. They were not rescued. They're not learning anything in the wild, because that's another thing that they tell the public.
Yeah.
We're learning so much. Get this. I contacted the government of Canada one time, because I found out that they had called this emergency meeting for belugas. I believe it was in the St. Lawrence. It was a huge problem. Worldwide meeting that they had, calling beluga experts from everywhere. The Vancouver Aquarium has been telling the world, we're beluga experts. We have them here so we could learn and help them in the wild, help them survive in the wild. And so this is what people think. So I contacted the government, and I spoke to the lady who was in charge. And I asked her, I said, this meeting that you had on this day, on this year, for these belugas, I said, was the Vancouver Aquarium invited? And there was this pause. And then she comes back and says, why would we invite the Vancouver Aquarium? Like, she was stunned, and I said, well, because the Vancouver Aquarium is telling the world, especially Canada, that that's why belugas are in captivity, because they can help them in the wild. She says they don't know anything about the wild. She said they don't know their eating habits. They don't know how many were born, the ships, the toxins. How can they help us at all? And I said, but that's what they're telling the public. Well, that has nothing to do with me, but no, they weren't invited.
Oh, I see. Wow.
What does that tell you? So they've been lying the whole time. And I think that, government has never been strong. We need new government, and we need to force these people to pay these bills, send the cetaceans and ocean sanctuaries that we're now building. And we need to find thousands of acres to start moving these animals from zoos to proper sanctuaries, and then stop it from happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do want to talk to you about the nice shoes, because and so what was the sort of like, what led you to acquire that company, and like what's the whole everything surrounding that?
Well, I'm originally an entrepreneur, so I've had businesses since I was a kid.
Okay.
And, what happened is so my last company, I had an internet marketing company that I sold in, I think, 2008 or something. And so I went traveling for a year and caught up on a few things. And then I decided that I had a little bit of money. So I thought it's time to give back. You know, life has been so good to me, and it's time for me to do something good instead of taking. So I decided to do these documentaries. Because you don't make money from documentaries.
No.
You get a lot of grief. That's what you get.
Yeah.
And here was the other issue. When the Vancouver Aquarium film first came out, the media didn't talk to me at all, as I had mentioned.
Yeah.
But they were going to the aquarium all the time. And you would see it. Yeah, they were seeing it in the paper, a half-page ad about my film, and they never even contacted me. They contacted the aquarium and they said, "What do you think of this film criticizing Captivity?" All propaganda, completely untruthful, and then they go in with more lies. And I never even had a word. So I was public enemy number one for about 6 months. Threats. I mean, you have no idea how people venerate this aquarium. And it took almost about 6 months for those people to start saying online, actually, the filmmaker's right. I contacted the aquarium and his facts are dead on. And then everybody started to forget about me, and they all started to attack the aquarium, and then everything started from there. So making documentaries, you don't make money. It's a passion of love, and I love it. But I needed to start to make money again. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And so I started to look for a business, and then a friend of mine said Nice Shoes was for sale. And I knew about them, and a great couple that had it for many years, and they wanted to do something different. So it aligned with my beliefs, and so now I'm selling vegan stuff.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Do you feel like there is obviously the vegan market is growing. It's been growing a lot. I feel like in the past like couple years it's just been just taking off.
Yeah.
And so what's sort of your plan with the company? What do you want to do?
So what I realized right away, that a small little store in Vancouver was being outgrown quickly. You couldn't stock enough products for people, and as you said, it's growing. More people are wanting to be more conscious about
Totally.
Yes, and I decided that the only way for me to really grow and be able to provide a good service to not just the vegans, but those people who are just looking for good quality shoes or bags, whatever it is, purses, that I needed to go online. So I'm kind of taking on the dropship approach, which is basically everything that you see online, we actually don't have in stock. It comes directly from the manufacturer.
Yeah.
But the nice part about that is that whatever they have that's vegan, I can sell. Because if you have a store, you're only selling what you bought, and that's a very small little number. You might buy 50 pairs of shoes from a company that's 200. So now I can actually put a website up that has a whole bunch of vegan options for my customers, and they're being directly shipped to them. And as you're saying, veganism is growing. The internet is going to grow for quite some time. Online purchasing is growing, and dropship is growing. So I think it's a pretty good business to kind of get into. So.
Yeah, definitely. The dropship model is awesome. I mean, that means you don't have to have as much inventory. I mean, you save on that space as well. I'm sure are you still maintaining the storefront?
No, I didn't take the store. Right away I said I'm not going to do this because I won't carry enough products. But I did take the products that they have. So I actually do have products here in my home. And so my home is actually a store right now, because as much as I like to ship it out, a lot of people want to come and try things on. And so I've opened up, but this is the vegan community. They're not just regular buyers. They sit and have a tea with me. We'll talk for an hour. We may not even buy anything, and we're best friends when they leave. So
amazing.
Yeah, so that's cool. What's nice. Yeah, it's what's nice about this, is that we all, and some of them had heard about my film, so they were eager to chat. And beautiful people, beautiful business to be in. So yeah, I really like it.
That's awesome. Wow. It's really great.
And I'm sorry?
No, I was going to say that with your business, how do you see for your business, what's the growth been for you? How do you get more people to be on board, and how is that changing their mindset as they hear your story?
You've asked a very interesting question. which is what my next project is going to be about. Instead of doing a documentary, I'm going to do a reality show called Coast 64. And that's where I plan on doing most of my advertising for Nice Shoes.
Nice.
Is
Very
having
nice.
6 people living in an eco-friendly home, driving electric cars, wearing vegan clothing, eating at plant-based restaurants, and we'll be filming them. So guess whose clothing they're going to be wearing a lot of times.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of my main advertising that I'm actually hoping and looking forward to. But
Great.
just before that, though, I haven't really done any advertising yet because I'm switching the whole company from this bricks and mortar to kind of a dropship model. But we're almost there. I figure probably about another month or two, we'll have everything kind of wrapped up.
Wow.
And I'm going to slowly start doing some online advertising for vegans first. I want to get as many people as I can, just because the products are fantastic, whether they're vegan or not. But 90% of my customers are vegan, and they're looking for vegan products, and they're sometimes hard to find. So my first year, of advertising online, is going to be pretty much directed to vegans. And then
That's
after,
awesome.
once I think I have enough of North America's vegan market of advertising, which probably could be 2-3 years of advertising, then I'll go outside of that market and start advertising non-vegan. But so that's the plan. Start off slow with some advertising, and then hopefully the reality show actually comes to fruition, and I can get a lot of advertising through that.
Yeah,
That's
do
awesome.
you mind going into the reality show a little bit, and like what was sort of the spark of like what's the thing that could have sparked that idea?
Well, first of all, the documentaries, as much as I love doing them, you can only tackle one subject at a time because they're pretty big and there's a lot of information.
Right.
And I wanted to do more. And so I thought, how do we do this? What are people gravitating towards? And then the first thing that came to me was these reality shows. Everybody loves these reality shows, but we know that they don't really have any value to them. I mean, the role models are terrible. They're still outdated. They're still trying to show off, and they're horrible for kids with all these Botox and injections. And why can't they just people be naturally beautiful on their own? But it's all about selling products. So I looked at that and I thought, you know what? There's a huge audience there. Reality shows are pretty big. Why don't we come up with finally a really good reality show that has education, and we can mix all the fun parts, but instead of wearing fur, you can wear faux fur. Instead of eating, you can eat at a plant-based restaurant, and just start showing people, because people really don't care. They're just following whatever the trends are. So we can hoping create a new trend. We're not creating a new trend. I want to add to the existing trend, because there is a trend going on. People are becoming more conscious, and it's the younger people. They're caring more. They understand. Our parents were so indoctrinated, it's hard to get them out of it. But the young people are a lot more receptive, and they want change, and they do care about animals, and they do care about the environment. So I think a reality show coming out at this time, if it's done properly, could hopefully reach millions of people around the world, and we could start promoting some healthy, conscious companies and healthy, conscious decision making.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Also, when you do this reality show, are you going to create a good amount of space for vegan employees, for example? Because often, as we're creating this larger vegan community, world community, I know, at least from my experience, that when we have vegan employees, staff who are vegan, often it's difficult for them to be able to go outside of our restaurant or outside of vegan world to go get a job at a non-vegan restaurant, where they have to now handle, animal products, and it's really hard for them. So I'm just wondering, is there going to be space to create more opportunities for vegan employees or vegan staff, so that they also have a place to go?
Well, I think most of that is going to come from interviewing the companies that are doing. Yeah, so we're going to interview companies that like the Meatless Burger, solar, electric cars. We want to open up all of these wonderful things for people to look at and go, oh, I can work there or something, especially when we're going to plant-based restaurants, and there's more coming. So that'll open it up. As far as hiring people for the show, the 6 people, there may be 1 or 2 vegans. The rest are probably not going to be. And that's what we want, because we want to show them what it's like to be a meat eater in this world, how easy it is.
Totally.
But they're all going to be eating 100% vegan. They're going to be wearing 100% vegan, and that's a lot of it too is going to come through that as well.
That's
But
awesome.
definitely, we're going to be hiring some like vegan chefs and everything to show that, and there'll probably be competitions within themselves who can make the best vegan meal and to show the audience. So I'm hoping to have a lot of fun with it too.
That's kind of cool
awesome.
to have a person who is, you know, not vegan at all to sort of live the vegan lifestyle. And really, I mean, if it's done right, I mean, it's going to show them how similar it is. You know, I mean, you know, we're not, you know, it's not like we're, you know, over here, you know, having to put concoctions together in, you know, petri dishes in order to like make a meal or whatever. You know, it's like, you know, you're just cooking up some good stuff and it tastes good. If you do it right, it tastes good. And the clothes you wear, they can be cool. They can look just as cool as all the other clothes that you have that have animal products in them. I mean, it just, you know, just having the perspective change from the people that are on the show, I think would be very powerful. And I think, you know, we talked about this, I think before that, media is like one of the main drivers of like people changing like what they believe, you know? And so
Absolutely.
having a show like this would be pretty awesome. I think it'll be, I mean, if not for just there's a bit of spectacle when you're like watching a documentary, right? It's like what is happening? Like this like weird, crazy thing is going on, you know? And so you're watching this thing, and then, you know, through that entertainment, you're like learning something too. You're like, oh, actually, like, interesting. I didn't know this. Sounds like it looks like a pretty good meal when they went to that vegan restaurant, you know, like maybe I'll go to that restaurant, you know, that's a show that was on that show I saw, you know? So
well, what I've had to do, like when I first became vegan a long time ago, vegetarians were considered weird. So
yeah,
vegan, I was an alien. Like
yeah, right.
I didn't realize how ostracized I was. I wasn't getting invited to parties sometimes,
Yeah.
and I had asked them why, and they said, "Well, we don't know what you want to eat, and we were getting pizza with pepperoni and all these excuses." You
Yeah.
know, and it's kind of disappointing when you're trying to do something good and then the world turns on you.
Yeah.
You know,
Lovely.
my family was
Yeah.
very supportive, but all my friends, they had no idea what to do with me, and
Yeah.
I wasn't going to start eating meat, so I guess I got used to being alone a little bit, but
Yeah.
which I seem to like.
Yeah.
But no, I always had good
Benefits to it.
yeah, yes, but no, I've always had some good friends. It was just I was surprised that I really thought when I went vegan that when I did think about the reaction of people, which was secondary, I thought it would be positive,
Yeah.
and some people were actually upset because I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
yeah, because they felt that they themselves can't do it, so they're upset with you because you're making them feel bad, and
Absolutely.
that wasn't the goal. But I learned a lot about human nature when I became vegan. I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
what people really are all about,
Yeah.
and so it taught me more than just caring for animals.
Mm.
Uh, but when I did go vegan, especially now, there's more selection than there are eating meat.
Yeah.
There's so much better foods, especially when you start traveling to other countries and they're not just so meat dependent. And you start to eat meals that you're like, I've never had something so good in my life, and it's vegan.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
and what I had to start doing is when people would come over for dinner, they're going, "Are you gonna make that vegan stuff?" And they don't even know what I'm gonna make. Oh no, don't worry, I'll look after you. Of course, it was vegan, and I wouldn't tell them. I
Yeah.
would
Right.
say, there's the spaghetti, or here's the meat, or here's the Thai curry, or whatever it is, and they'd always do the same thing. Oh, this is the best, Gary. It's too bad you don't eat meat anymore. You don't know what you're missing. And it's only after the meal is over I tell them that's 100% vegan,
Yeah.
and they can't believe it.
Yeah. Right.
That's right.
And it's because of what you said. It's media.
Yeah.
That's right.
So once people start realizing like all the different foods, all the different selections, much better. And the clothing now leather, suede. That's all old school now.
Yeah.
The trend, everything, there's because you can make clothing and shoes out of the coolest materials now
Yeah.
that are way better for the environment. Don't have to use animal products. Way cooler looking and sometimes even much better. So yeah, we just need to start getting it out there, really.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
Absolutely.
it's really fascinating too because I see that in the past, when we talked more about veganism, you got to go vegan, you got to do this. This is information. You have the data over here. But now we also realize that in addition to the data and to the information that we actually share, we also have to share solutions to those problems to say, hey, you know what?
Yes.
You don't have this, but this is the option that you should have. Don't get that clothing. This is the clothing that you should have. Don't do this, do this. And marrying both that information and the activity and the action itself together gives them the solution that they need. Because often when we say, hey, you're doing this and it's wrong, often some people, they'll take it as an affront to them. That's the reason why they get upset. And then you find out, oh my God, all my work that I'm doing, people are not accepting it. But I think when we marry that information with some solution, either in the clothing, in even vegan makeup, or a vegan insurance companies, or vegan, which is amazing.
Yeah.
When we marry that together with what we're talking about, now all of a sudden they have a solution. And eventually, like you're saying, like veganism should be normalized. That should be what normal is.
Yes. Yeah. And I completely agree with you. I've always appreciated when somebody provides information about something and doesn't just leave it to you to decide. They actually give you a solution. And this is what I like about Coast 64, the reality show, is that we're not just going to talk about issues. We're going to show you. That's really what we're going to do. We're going to do the transition, exactly what you're talking about. Make it easier for people to see how simple it is to actually be more conscious, more eco and vegan. How easy it is.
I know I'm going to be glued to the TV watching Coast 64 for sure, because I want to see. And now that I know you, I'm going to be looking for every little answer. I can see Gary in that right there. Yeah. Yes. That's not just a writer. That's Gary. That's his value right there. I can see.
Well, I hope I do a good job when it comes out, because I think that my goal isn't just to have Post 64 in Los Angeles for 2 months and then New York City for 2 months. The first season is LA, second season New York. But once we start getting into the second and third season, I'm hoping that the show is popular enough that we're going to open up a Coast 64 Australia, Coast 64,
nice.
Coast 64 Canada. So we're going to have 6 people in different countries all doing the same thing. Nice. Now, can you imagine if we had that for even 3 or 4 years, the power the things that we could do to this planet by millions of people watching 3 or 4 shows, talking about all of this stuff, giving them the solutions. That would make a huge difference. That would make a powerful difference. Then politicians would see that the public is engaged. So then we would start to get politicians on our side. This could be very transformative. And that's kind of what I'm hoping. I want to make history. I want to change the world.
That's awesome, man. Wow.
That's really cool. Wow.
Yeah.
I know we're about out of time now. It's been really awesome. I know it flew by. I mean, I almost felt like it was like 5 minutes.
That's why I said, let's keep going. I'm enjoying
this is so great, man. Thank you so much, man. You just, wow, what an inspiration.
Yeah.
What you're doing, the work, the effort, the constant thinking about how you're going to make this world better. Wow.
Well, thank you for what you're doing, your podcast, your restaurants, and I'm hoping that I'll be interviewing you for my show.
Yeah, that would be great.
That would be wonderful. And everybody. And another thing too, I think we've all learned by being vegan, we've actually become more tolerant because we understand human nature and how difficult it is for people to make that transition. So nowadays, when people, they almost feel bad telling me, like, I only had 1 vegan meal this week. And I tell them, like, no, that means you had 1 less meat meal. Good for you. I fully support any little effort, because that's what they need. They need support. They don't need people coming down on them. This is already hard enough as it is for people. They're going out with their friends. That's the number 1 reason. So number 1 reason is because all their friends are eating meat. And so they don't want to be that. You have to be strong enough to say, yeah, I'll be the vegan here. I know you're going to bug me. I know I'll be awesome. Most people aren't like that. So full support. And if people are interested in my vegan company, they can go to niceshoes.ca. I ship to the United States and Canada, so I have all kinds of stuff there. And the film, Vancouver Aquarium Uncovered, you can just go to vancouveraquariumuncovered.com. The other film, Medical Illusion, that I was talking about, that scientific failures of testing on animals, that's just medicalillusion.com. So you can
Perfect.
find me anywhere if
Yeah.
you want to look.
Yeah, that's those are some of the questions I was going to ask you. Where can people find you for sure? Are you on socials at all?
I am, well, I personally don't really get on social, but
Yeah.
my company is, and I have to be.
Right, for
So I
sure.
have people always talking, and so like they like doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not a
Yeah,
big
not into it that much. So I'll go in reverse. So what are you working on in the moment?
just nice shoes
Yeah.
and Code 64.
Got
So
it.
I'm
Awesome.
going to finish up. Yeah, I'm going to finish up nice shoes to the dropship system, so I can bring more products for my customers. Clean that up. I'm also looking for a new name for the company.
Yeah.
Nice shoes, I don't think kind of represents what we do anymore.
Mm.
So there'll be a new name. The company hopefully will be ready to really go in a couple months. And right now, as we speak, I'm hoping that the website to start signing up people who want to be the 6 people will hopefully be ready in a couple months to put
Nice.
out there. And then hopefully we can
That's
start
awesome.
getting people from around the world to
Yeah.
sign up to be one of the 6 people. And then I think by October 30th, we're going to pick the 6 people and then
Nice.
fly them into LA probably in the spring to start shooting.
Wow, that's
That's
great.
awesome.
That's really
Yeah.
cool.
Wow.
And then hopefully I'll get to meet the 2 of you.
Yeah,
So
that'd be
great, man.
awesome. I mean, maybe we can meet before then.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah.
what advice would you give to sort of anybody starting out, or maybe just providing some like tips on how to make conscious choices in their everyday lives?
Oh, that is so, everybody is so different that you almost have to tailor the tip to each person, right?
Mm.
Like some people, you tell them, be stronger. Like, you want to make those choices. So don't worry about, people, what they have to say. Follow your own heart, your own soul. Be a little bit tougher. Other people, you know what? As long as you're making an effort, pat yourself on the back. Like don't be hard on yourself because you're not a full-on vegan. Just look at all the little positive things that you do, and then give yourself credit for that, and then continue to jump on that. And don't use the excuse that I can't change the world. Nobody can change the world. I'm going to try, but that we're not there to change the world. Just change yourself. So just have a whole new perspective about what you want to do with your habits, and don't worry so much about everybody else. Even if you're keeping it a little quiet, do you. That's the most important thing.
That's
Wow,
awesome.
thank you. That's
That's
so
really
great.
good.
Yeah. It's fascinating too. The fact that when we are confrontational about veganism or about what we're doing because we think we're right, this is not just negative. It only says something about us. That maybe we have some insecurities about this, and we're afraid that if we don't scream it out, we ourselves will stop doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But I think when we have confidence in what we're doing and we are comfortable with being vegans and doing the right thing by other species and the environment, we don't need to scream and yell. We can take people and help people from where they are to lift them up. Yes. I totally agree with you.
I do, and I like exactly how your thought pattern is that there's been too much anger. Even with protests, I am not a fan of these angry protests, and I think that I'm very strategic. Like I said, I'm an entrepreneur. So if you're going to have a protest, what we see nowadays are most protests are completely outdated, and corporations know how to deal with them. And so the protesters and the people leading the protests really have to update themselves, and they have to sit down and ask themselves, what are we really trying to accomplish here? They don't ask that. They just say, let's show up with a bunch of signs and yell.
Yeah.
Who are you yelling at? Are you looking at the owners, the employees, the tourists, the customers, perhaps their associates? Who are you really? Find the weakest link and target them. And how are you going to target them? Is it better to have an angry kind of demonstration that'll put them off? Most of the time, that doesn't work anymore, because most people, if I had children, I wouldn't go near those people. They're just mad and yelling. I don't know what's going on. I've always said, you know what? Have a family day. put on some nice music, get the bubbles going, get some nice white shirts with broccoli on that, instead of putting down carbs, start
I
showing
like
what
that.
the transition, you
Yeah,
know.
totally.
And I think
Totally.
that you would get a lot
Totally.
more response from that, especially families, than what's
Absolutely.
going on today. So the protests, a lot of the organizations, in my opinion, they're antiquated. They're just still doing the same thing that they did 30 years ago, and they're not really going anywhere. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of room for improvement,
Totally.
and but it's coming. We're all starting to get conscious about it, and
Yeah.
podcasts and that. I think we're going to see in the next 10 years. I think across North America and the world, we're going to see a lot of changes for animals.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
And I also think, you know, as long as there's a foundational value that comes with being vegan, you know, with the concept of veganism itself, compassion. It's
Well,
like, you know, if we embody that, we would see that screaming and yelling and being confrontational is probably not the best expression of compassion.
it's not. It's not welcoming. You
Yeah.
know, we need to be more
So,
caring. We need to be more
totally.
open. We need to be more understanding and patient. And
Totally.
that's where I think we're going to get a lot further. And people are more, they tend to kind of move towards that instead of moving
Absolutely.
away from it. And so, yeah, I think, like I said, we're coming along and changes are happening. Not quite fast enough, but as you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
DG, is that there's been a boom. Because, like I said, I was vegan for 26 years roughly.
Yeah.
It was nothing happened, even with vegetarianism, nothing happened for 10 years. And then,
Exactly.
the vegetarians started to kind of take off. And then
Just
all
like,
of a sudden, the corporations realized there's a market here.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you started to see these products in the Walmarts, in the other stores. And here, once again, is you have the protesters or the people against it, and they were upset about that because they were selling out. Strategically, that's the best thing you can do. Put them in the big corporate stores, even though the corporations are profiting from it. It doesn't matter. It's getting people to understand that you can start eating plant-based foods, and it's healthier for you. So let them get out. So that's why you have these people who are opposed to eating meat and that. They don't really think it through of what's really the best. They're very emotional. They want what they think is best for themselves, but it's not really what's best for everybody. So this is what we saw happen, is that the corporations said there's profit to be here. So we started seeing all these in all these different stores. Even Maple Leaf has now got vegan stuff. So when you see Maple Leaf and now these other corporations bringing on these, and you're starting to see like meatless, was it Beyond Meat or whatever, meatless or Impossible,
totally. Yeah.
stocks are worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now you're starting to see this as an economic boom too, not just a vegan thing. It's an economic thing. It's a financial thing. So that's why it's in the last 10 years, we had a couple things start to happen on top of just the corporations. We started to see financial gains and all this kind of stuff, a little bit more media talk. All of a sudden now, boom, everybody's talking about veganism, not just vegetarianism, veganism. They go right to that step. And then, of course, we're now hearing about all the health problems with dairy, all the health problems. They've been out for years, but nobody seems to be listening until now that they have options.
Yeah, right.
Now that they can make money by buying a stock that's in vegan.
Right.
So their whole mentality is changing and opening, and it's wonderful, and I love it.
Yeah.
You know, Gary, as you're talking, you know, it just really got me to think about the value of your documentaries and what you've done, even the value of being sued.
Yes.
And you winning that appeal, because what we're talking about right now is the way that we make changes in this world. Government should be a regulatory body. The corporations, you know, are able to be conglomerates to help, you know, strategize and bring products. And then and then we have the consumers. But when the government goes into cahoots with the corporation, we have a problem. And that's what your documentary is about, that they're lying, you know, and if we can just get the regulators, just do your job. Don't be in cahoots and get monies from the corporation or vice versa, you know, where there's all this cheating going on, which is really interesting. And it's by making sure each area is doing their own thing and don't have this undue influence, you know, then we can easily bring products in corporations see that, oh, there's a market, consumers are really gravitating towards this, they'll do it easily without needing to be coerced by some regulator that says, oh, but remember, I have this interest in this other thing here, so therefore, let's not do this right thing yet, until we are sued. It's amazing.
And what you've said is probably the most important thing for me is government. I think I blame government for pretty much everything.
Yeah.
We can blame the people for a certain part of it, but here in Canada, when you're talking about government and voting for people, we don't have much selection. Canadians are they're not very enamored right now with politics and our politicians. We don't have any strong politicians. We're stuck with Trudeau, and we've been stuck with him for years because the Conservatives have nobody. The other two parties are too small. So they're not making any headways in sustainability, let alone animals. And so what you have said to me is the most important thing is government's failure. And a huge part of that is because they're in cahoots, as you said, with the corporations. And then the other problem is, though, is that when you talk about even if they could do their job, there isn't enough laws to protect animals in Canada because Canada is way behind. And we don't, even if there are laws, we don't even have the enforcement of those laws. You have no idea what a mess it is in Canada. We have no standardized laws for any animals. We have a bit of federal stuff. We have every provincial is kind of different, and they're not even working together. You go to court, as I mentioned, judges have no idea what to do with this stuff. Yeah. It's a mess from top to bottom, and it's going to take it's going to take a while to clean up. But as you said, for me, it's government. I blame them for mostly everything.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's really crazy. Wow. Good job, though. I mean, just really appreciate what you've done so far.
Honestly. And I appreciate what you guys have done, and anybody who puts in an effort after being working so hard this many years. I've come to the point, as I said, if somebody has one vegan meal, thank you. That's a lot for me. You're trying, you've put an effort into it. That's wonderful, and that's where I've come to in my life.
Yeah. Now, would it be okay to have you come back again?
I would love to come back again.
It'd be so great.
I could keep talking for another hour if you two were talking.
Yeah. But, well, we definitely have to. We definitely have to have you back on again. Then,
so great.
Yeah, it'd be great, and it'd be cool to see sort of the progress and how everything's going with your business, and whatever the new name is going to be, and then the reality show. It'd be kind of cool to see just sort of the progress and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we'll definitely have to have you on then.
We're going to touch base, and we're going to keep in touch, and
absolutely.
Hopefully Coast 64 does well, and I'd love to interview you for your restaurants, and
that'd be great.
Let's show the world a new way to live.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Definitely. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
To see you. Thank you.
Well,
see you soon.
To our next conversation.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Well, we just had Gary on. That's a good. I mean, what's going on here? I blame Sam for this. Bringing all these great guests on here.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah,
I think just incredible amount of work and incredible people that are coming on and sharing their stories and their journeys and their vision, for a better world with us. I mean, I really feel privileged, and and we all come from different political views and social understanding. And yet we have this amazing, this better life concept.
Yeah.
That we have,
right.
And I love when Gary says, you do you, whatever you do, one little step that you take, it's good.
Yeah.
And it's so great.
It's very good. And I love the sort of the focus on being so one of the things that I really liked about Gary is that he was focused on what the actual best thing to do would be, let's go to the government because that's where the change is going to get made, as opposed to letting the emotions take over when you're feeling something, and so I thought that was very good. And and you can see it in the documentary, so
Right.
it's like, there's just like this very, very logical way about him that
Yeah.
means that I feel like would be he would be sort of helping to build like the ladder to get out,
Right.
of the animal abuse and,
Mm-hmm.
eating animal products and wearing animal products. He's helping to build the scaffolding to, build to that better future, with the documentaries he's already done, but then also the reality show. Like these things are what actually move the needle, in a way, for people to understand in the change, and just understanding that, once people understand, or once people know the information, then they can make more clear and more accurate decisions. It's like, the thing that I think we might have talked about this before, but when why is it bad to show kids and people like how their food was made?
Right.
If it was animals, and you're like, no, don't, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that, but like, then you'll eat it afterwards. You're like, well, give it to me. I want the food, but don't show me how you did it. That's all.
Totally.
So it's like, but once people see that and see where it actually comes from, what, like, you're uncovering, you're removing the veil of what's going on in this world,
Totally.
and then and letting people say, hey, you know what, like, well, this is actually what's going on. Do you now agree with this once you know the truth?
It's interesting too, because and part of that information, of course, is even the way we call the names that we actually give the food items. When we call something steak, for example,
right? Yeah.
It's a veil that we put over the actual cow.
Right. Yeah.
That it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
It's a cow leg.
Yeah. Right.
It's not just steak.
Yeah. Where do the nuggets come from the chicken?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So
so this is great. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So well, I guess we'll see everybody on the next one.
Yeah. Thank you guys for being here.
All right. Bye. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Green Carpet Interviews. We hope you found it informative and inspiring.
This show was brought to you by Veg on the Edge, our vegan restaurant in Santa Cruz and San Luis Obispo. If you're in the area, be sure to stop by and check out our delicious plant-based dishes. Check out vegontheedge.com for more information.
To stay connected with us and learn more about conscious living, follow us on Instagram at Green Carpet Interviews. We love hearing from our listeners and would love to hear your thoughts and feedback.
Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Green Carpet Interviews.